What's up, everybody? My name is Troy, but I also go by TangelaBoots, and today I bring you my Week 1 battle in the PEBA against RG the Awesome. Now, this part of the video is going to be my team builder, and then after this I'm going to do my replay post-commentary. I plan to do all my battles post-commentary. If you'd like to see live commentary, please let me know, but I'm most likely going to do post-commentary because it's easier to schedule for me. But with that being said, I'm just going to go right into explaining my team. So I'm going to be putting his team on the screen right about now, and I have them in the order of the likelihood that I think they're going to be coming to this match. He's got a really good team. I definitely like it. That Mega Sableye is a huge threat, and despite the fact that I have Mega Altaria, I still think he's going to bring it. Ferrothorn does a pretty good job at walling my two water types, so I definitely think that will be coming. Weavile is always a big, offensive threat. Same with Latios. Latios can definitely put in work. Especially because it can defog, but Swellow is one that I'm fairly certain he'll bring, which is why I have it in, the top 6, because Boom Burst Swellow, I was doing the calcs, does so much damage to me. If he's choice specs, it does insane damage, and you can also pack Heat Wave for the Scizor, so that's something I was definitely afraid of. And then Blastoise, I expected a Pokemon to just kind of throw on the team for defense, maybe take some hits, rapid spin if it needs to. If Latios doesn't come, I think Blastoise definitely will to keep hazards away. Mega Sableye already does a pretty good job with that, but yeah. So starting off, we have Manaphy with Tail Glow, Surf, Ice Beam, and Hidden Power Fire. Now I originally had Dazzling Gleam, but my friend Stromful gave me some good team building advice, and he recommended Hidden Power Fire over Dazzling Gleam because obviously that Ferrothorn, pretty big issue. So being able to be a lure for that Ferrothorn, definitely a plus. I had Dazzling Gleam originally because I was looking at his team and I saw the Sableye and I saw Weavile. Both of them kind of get blown back by Surf anyways because Mega Sableye doesn't immediately threaten Manaphy, and Weavile is, he's a glass cannon. He's paper thin defenses, so I can blast through Weavile with Stab, no problem. So that's why I switched to Hidden Power Fire. Now for Altaria, it's a bit strange. I have the Agility set with Modest, and we've got Hyper Voice and Flamethrower on deck with Roost. Instead of, using Dragon Dance to boost my speed, I'm using Agility, just because, the attack boost is going to no use anyways, so I might as well just use Agility to get to +2 anyways. It allows me to outspeed some Scarf Pokemon. This gives me a way to outspeed Swellow, outspeed Latios, even outspeed Weavile. He can Ice Shard me, but it's not going to do enough. Hyper Voice hits a good majority of his team, and then Flamethrower hits Ferrothorn, which is the biggest target that Hyper Voice doesn't hit. And then moving on, we have Arcanine with max attack, max special defense. The special defense investment is straight up to help me out against something like a Boom Burst Swellow. It helps me out against Volcarona if that decides to come. It helps out against Latios, maybe tanking a Draco Meteor if it has to. So yeah, pretty basic moveset, pretty typical for a defensive Arcanine. I have the Roar on there just in case he tries to set up with something like maybe a Calm Mind Latios, Quiver Dance Volcarona, Swords Dance Drapion. That was a big one that I was concerned of. I didn't have the Will-O-Wisp, mainly just because it's so easy for him to switch into Mega Sableye once he knows I have it. So having Roar, I think, works better for a lot of other Pokemon. Moving on, we have a pretty standard Mantine, standard EV spread, fully defensive, but it gets the job done, I think. It helps me lessen damage from Weavile, Ferrothorn, stuff like that. Overall, it's just a nice switch in to a lot of his Pokemon. Scald, Ice Beam, pretty typical. The Mirror Coat is for, again, that Latios, that Swellow, which I'm super scared of. That's the only reason I really have Mirror Coat on here, is to hit that Swellow if Ice Beam is not enough. But Mirror Coat can do a lot of other cool things. If you have special Electivire, that could be interesting. Then we have my Miltank, which I know is probably very strange. Miltank is here basically to substitute on Sableye, and with Scrappy, it can Power Up Punch and start getting boosts up. With this set, I can basically outspeed everything besides the Weavile, the Latios, and the Swellow. But I don't expect his Weavile to stay in on Miltank because I am pretty defensive. Latios can't do too much to me with a Side Shock. He can't really hit me super effectively. Draco Meteor would definitely hurt, but if I'm behind a sub, he'll have to Draco and lower his special attack to break the sub in the first place. So yeah, Power Punch in return, it's perfect coverage on his team because it's scrappy. This is kind of a good way to ensure I can beat Sableye 1v1 if it comes down to that. Keeping Miltank alive versus Sableye allows me to beat it because substituting allows me to prevent any kind of status effect on Miltank, and then I can proceed to try and set up. And then lastly, we have Scizor with an Aqua Berry. He's got a very interesting mixed defensive spread. I kind of just did some calcs to determine how to take the least amount of damage from all of his Pokemon. I'm pretty sure these calcs involve taking hits from certain random hidden power fires, as well as being able to tank boosted hits from stuff like Drapion, things like that. Now, I originally had Swords Dance on this set instead of Toxic, and I realized that Scizor doesn't have too much wall breaking potential, so I realized that Toxic might actually be better because his switch-ins to it, which are Ferrothorn and Sableye, I don't really mind if Sableye switches into the Toxic because Scizor is Steel-type, so he's not getting poisoned anyways. And then Ferrothorn switches in, but he can't really do much to my Scizor besides Leech Seed it, so Ferrothorn switching in isn't necessarily a problem. It kind of makes him lose momentum, if anything. Yeah, Toxic is a move that's pretty good to spam if I predict a switch on his side. U-turn is kind of just to gain momentum if I need to. Bullet Punch is just for late game cleaning. It helps against the Weavile, the Swellow, the Latios, everything that's kind of faster than me. It really helps out against. And Roost is obviously just to stay healthy. My team is kind of just stay healthy, the team, besides the Manaphy. Everything has some type of recovery move. But yeah, that's the full team. And I'm just going to hop right into the replay. So here we are, week 1, PEBA. You can see, obviously, I'm on the left, he's on the right. And he brought an interesting team because it brings a couple of things I didn't necessarily expect. The Volcarona is here, which I didn't really plan for specifically. I plan to take hits for it, but I didn't plan too much in terms of offensively taking it out. I realized as soon as I see team preview that I kind of had a little bit of an oversight in not planning hard enough for this Volcarona, specifically because if he has Quiver Dance and Giga Drain, my main method of offensively taking it out, which is Manaphy, kind of goes down the drain at that point. So I realized immediately that Volcarona is kind of a threat that I didn't prepare enough for, just because I didn't consider it, top 6, most likely to make it onto his team this week. It made it really, kind of on the back burner for me in terms of team prep, which I really shouldn't have done, because I tried to prepare for all 12, but I guess I didn't think about Volcarona enough, so it's already kind of scary that it's here. And then Hitmonlee's here, who I didn't really expect to see, and I'm not too scared of it, really. It might have some type of interesting Unburden set that I'm not too prepared for, so I have to be careful about letting that thing stay alive in the late game and potentially clean on me, so I have to keep my defensive checks to it alive. Everything else is kind of, something I expected. I'm really glad I predicted the Swellow coming. I'm glad I'm prepared for that. But with everything being said, I'm just going to start the replay. I lead off with Scizor, mainly just planning on U-turning, which is exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm not really concerned about taking Rocky Helmet or Iron Bark damage. He ends up switching into his Volcarona. I'm really lucky I don't get Flame Bodied there. But I just go right into my Arcanine. Basically, if he wants to start Quiver Dancing, I can roar him out. But he decides to switch himself out into this Blastoise. I just clicked Flare Blitz for the damage. It makes sense, obviously, why I switch into this thing. And so I'm going to switch out, obviously, can't stay in. I go into my Scizor, mainly because I don't really care about this thing being burned too much. And I predicted him to kind of go for a Toxic there. And I'm able to get my own Toxic off on him as he goes for a Dragon Tail. He also reveals he has Counter, which is pretty important. But he Dragon Tails me into this Manaphy, which is actually a great chance to get this Tail Glow up. And I'm feeling great about this immediately. And I've revealed the Hidden Power Fire, and we take off Ferrothorn immediately. So that's a huge defensive threat gone. And I'm feeling great about this. So he switches in his Blastoise, and I actually go for the Z Hydro Vortex here. But it's not enough to take him out. In the damage calcs I did, it could have taken him out, but it looks like he has some special defense investment. And he goes for the Mirror Coat, which is actually able to take me out. Impressive prep having Counter and Mirror Coat both. But the Toxic is slowly whittling him down. I decided to set up a substitute with Miltank, just letting him, wear away. He goes for Rapid Spin there, which is pretty interesting, and I'm able to go for the Power Punch, actually, because Toxic doesn't take him out. So I'm able to get to +1, and I'm behind the substitute. But then he goes into Swellow. and my immediate thought is that he has Boom Burst, and he's able to hit me through the sub. Then he goes for U-turn, and I'm like, okay, he still could be a choice spec set, but it's interesting to notice that he went for an offensive, or physically offensive move right there. So we're back to Scizor and Volcarona. Now, I do have my Aqua Berry, but I decide I don't want to waste it right here. I want to switch out into Arcanine because it's a safe switch. And I'm able to intimidate this Swellow, which reveals it has a Flame Orb, and I realize, oh god, this thing is physical because it has Guts. So that kind of changes everything in my thought process, because I was expecting a Boom Burst Swellow. But I just throw off a Flare Blitz knowing that I can probably tank a hit now that he's intimidated. And he actually lets me do a lot of damage on this Sableye. And this lets me know that it is a physically defensive Sableye. So I realize that this is my immediate chance to get my specially offensive Altaria in here and start throwing off Hyper Voices. So I go for the Agility, just in case, you know, that Swellow wants to come in, I can take out that Swellow. But he goes for a Will-O-Wisp, and it doesn't really matter. He's probably thinking that I'm physical right here. And he's going to switch into Volcarona, unfortunately, which kind of defensively walls me either way. There's not much I could have had offensively for this Volcarona, which again is another oversight on my part. So back into Arcanine I go. This is kind of my defensive answer all the time for this Volcarona. I don't know if he has like a hidden power for me, like Hidden Power Ground or Hidden Power Rock. He hasn't clicked it yet, so I'm assuming he might not, but maybe he's saving a move like that for when he's fully Quiver Danced up. Staying in on the Sableye, I kind of just Flare Blitz to gauge the damage. He goes for Will-O-Wisp anyway, so I'm kind of really glad that I did. I didn't necessarily predict that. I kind of just wanted to, you know, make sure I was 100% correct about him being fully defensive, which it appears he is. So now I go back into Altaria. Will-O-Wisp would be useless anyways because I'm burned. And he's just going to go right back into his Volcarona. I do predict that with Flamethrower, which does marginally more damage, but it's kind of just pointless. So I switch right back out into Arcanine, and we're kind of just playing the switch game here, trying to gain the advantage, gain momentum back, as we're just kind of roosting and attacking and switching and roosting and attacking and switching. So back he goes into Sableye, and I actually clicked Roar here, trying to, you know, predict that he was going to go for a Quiver Dance, but I instead roar myself out into Mantine, which isn't the end of the world, because now I'm kind of trying to click Scalds. He has Thunder Punch. Now, this is great prep on his part, but I am fully defensive, so I'm able to tank it with more than 50% left, and Leftovers is going to help me out. And since I'm clicking Roost, it's going to do less every turn that I click Roost because I'm faster. So this gives me opportunities to fish for Scalds. He does have the Recover, but what would really matter is getting the burn, because it opens up ways for me to KO him, even if he has Recover, because I can do more than 50% every time now with the burn. But I'm not getting it yet, and he's actually burning me instead, so I'm kind of, you know, my Leftovers is pretty much nullified because of the burn, which is pretty unfortunate. I have to click Recover a whole lot more. And on my Recover, my Roost, he goes into his Swellow. And I'm really scared now, because even though I am fully physically defensive, I'm scared of what this thing can do to me. So I go into Arcanine, and I'm trying to intimidate it. Now, I get really confused for a moment, because this does way more than I saw it doing in damage calc, so it's actually because I factored in Intimidate twice, so I thought he was going to do less than that. But it doesn't matter, I go into Scizor. I'm really scared he still might have the Heat Wave anyways for the Scizor, but he switches out, which feels great, and I make the play to go for Toxic. And basically, the idea behind this was, I knew he wouldn't want to stay in with Swellow, even if he did have Heat Wave. I mean, he could have stayed in, but Bullet Punch would have done an incredible amount. And I thought that his best switch in to the Scizor was the Volcarona. So I decided to make the Toxic play, which would have, you know, I would have fell flat on my face if he didn't switch into this, because if he did have Heat Wave, it would have killed my Scizor. If he decided to stay in, I would have completely wasted a turn going for that Toxic because he was burned. And then I would have revealed that I had it, and then he wouldn't, you know, switch in his other Pokemon so easily on Scizor. He'd probably start switching in his Sableye instead. So the fact that I land this Toxic is huge, because this Volcarona was a huge threat to me, and it allows me to basically take this Volcarona on 1v1 with some of my other Pokemon where I can't otherwise. So predicting that and landing this Toxic is huge. But anyways, after I get it off, I'm immediately going to Mantine, because it's kind of my answer for this thing until he proves that he has hidden power that can hit me with this thing. Arcanine really isn't the answer anymore, simply because it's lower on health, and I really can't have it take damage to the point where I can't recover later. He goes into Sableye, giving me more chance to try and burn this thing, and I finally snag the burn after throwing off so many Scalds. So he goes for recover here. So now with 2 of his big walls crippled, I'm feeling really good about my place in the match right now. So I'm going to switch out, go into Arcanine. I'm realizing that now that he's burned, this is my chance to try and recover up and switch it into Swellow more, because now that I know that Guts Facade does that much damage, I'm going to need to be able to intimidate that thing when the time comes. Now he switches in Hitmonlee, and I'm going to predict a Stone Edge here and go into my Scizor. Otherwise I would have gone into Mantine. He goes for an Earthquake, so Mantine actually would have been better in the long run. And I decided to go for Bullet Punch here, knowing full well that he can kill me with a close combat, which he does. I kind of realized that Scizor did his job, Toxicking the Volcarona. Can't really do much more in this game besides maybe Bullet Punch the Swellow. But now I'm able to bring my Arcanine in an E-Speed, so there goes Hitmonlee. And I'm still feeling pretty good about my place in the game. Having Scizor gone, not being able to Bullet Punch the Swellow is a little scary. I have to switch into Miltank here to try and tank a Facade, but he goes for U-Turn instead, which is pretty good for me. I would have lost Miltank here otherwise. And here I make a weird play, I have to admit. I click Substitute. And I kind of forget that Bug Buzz can go through Substitute, but he actually clicks Flamethrower anyways. So kind of realizing that, I decided to switch out. I only clicked Substitute because I wanted to try and stall him out on Toxic as much as I could. But now we're just going to Mantine, which is probably what I should have done from the get-go. Go right into Mantine and see what he wants to do. And he's actually going to switch out into Sableye. I'm just going to click Scald again, obviously, just trying to do chip damage on that Volcarona. And I believe he's going to stay in and going to click Thunder Punch, but I go right into my Miltank. Oh no, he actually recovers, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm just going to try and do the Substitute thing again, but he switches immediately into Volcarona. So I'm thinking like, okay, he definitely has to know about the Bug Buzz thing at this point. He's definitely going to make the play. So I switch back out again into Mantine, and he actually doesn't click Bug Buzz, he clicks Flamethrower. So it's a bit strange. I feel like we both kind of made misplays during this point in the match, but it's whatever. He's just going to switch right back out into Swellow actually this time, on my predicted roost, which is a pretty good play on his part. But I'm looking at how much health I have, and I realize I can live this Facade, and I can click Ice Beam, and that is a dead Swellow. So probably his biggest offensive threat, you know, to my whole team is gone. So 4-2 score, I'm feeling really, really good, and I realize at this point I all but pretty much have the game locked up, just as long as he doesn't have some kind of crazy hidden power on this Volcarona. So I click Roost, he's Quiver Dancing, and I'm like, oh no, does he have the hidden power or something? And I'm just gonna click Scald here. I'm just gonna kind of click Scald a bunch just to try and do chip damage. I want to lead him to a false sense of security so that I can predict with the turn that he's going to try and attack me after Toxic has racked up enough damage, and I can successfully kill this Volcarona without him trying to get through to any of my other Pokemon. That's kind of the plan here. He gets a +3 at this point, and I'm thinking he has to do it pretty soon. And I think right about here is when he's it becomes like a 50-50 at this point when he's going to go for it. He could click Roost here, he could attack me here, and he clicks Roost here. And I click Mirror Coat here, so that doesn't work. Now he knows I have that. So I'm like, crap. I kind of just have to keep healing at this point, in hopes that I can stay at high enough health to be able to Mirror Coat him successfully, you know, not taking up damage from whatever move he potentially has, and just kind of stay alive and hope that the Toxic might kill him first instead. I click Scald here because I know he's going to Roost, being that low on health. And seeing him get brought down this far, I think he has to attack me eventually, so I think this will be the turn that he does. He does 42% to me, lowers my special defense, but it does not matter because I clicked Mirror Coat that turn. So down goes the Volcarona. And then now it's just a Sableye. The Sableye is burned, and I know that this thing has the Thunder Punch. If I don't Roost right now, he'll kill me. So I'm going to try and save differential because I pretty much have the game locked up at this point. So I go into my Altaria, and this is just going to be a Hyper Voice, and this is going to be a GG to RG the Awesome. So it was a pretty great match. I played pretty patiently. I kind of waited for things to happen, like the Scald Burn, for example. I waited to be able to Toxic that Volcarona, all things which really helped me. I might have, you know, played a little bit defensively this match, but my playstyle, I would say, is defensive balance. I don't play too aggro. I mean, sometimes I can. Sometimes you have to win games, but this is definitely the playstyle I'm the most comfortable with. So I'm glad we were able to pull out the win. Winning week 1 always feels good. Losing week 1 always feels bad. That's just kind of how it is, because it sets the tone for, you know, the rest of the season and also your mental game. You know, going into week 2, you already feel like you have to climb your way back up in comparison to half the league. So I'm really glad that I was able to pull out the win here. Definitely shouts out to RG the Awesome. I'll try to link all the stuff of his that I can find in the description. I also want to give him a special shout out for hosting the draft stream, which was really cool of him to do. He definitely said some nice things about my team. His team is definitely really cool. And yeah, that's about it. You guys can hopefully see me in about a week for my week 2 battle. And other than that, yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.